So this is my wild leek haul from today. I went back to my mother and father-in-law's place and harvested some of those, and I shared some of them with my father-in-law. He likes them as a treat as well. So this is what I got, and so what I'm going to do, because it's 9 o'clock right now on a Sunday night, and I just don't feel like doing anything with them other than cleaning them. So what I'm going to do is I'll just take off that root, and I'll clean the bulb and the leaves. I'll wrap them in paper towels and put them in the fridge overnight, and then tomorrow morning I'll get to making some more refrigerator pickles out of these bulbs and some pesto out of the leaves. We don't want to waste anything. And the last time I made some refrigerator pickles, I ate the whole jar myself in a couple of days, so they are a real treat. So all I'm just going to do is just going to kind of peel that little skin back, and then you can either use a knife for this, or I can just pop them off with my fingernail. Just take that root off. So it's just like a spring onion. It's got that thin little membrane there. I usually just pull that back, and then there. Isn't that beautiful? I'm just going to wrap those up in this tea towel tonight, stick them in the crisper in the refrigerator, and like I said, get working on those tomorrow morning. And these are just the roots that I cut off, and I'm going to put those in the compost pile tomorrow. I have my ingredients laid out here for both recipes, and underneath these tea towels I've got my wild leeks that I gathered at my in-laws last night, and when I got home I washed and prepared them and then just wrapped them in these tea towels, and then I put that into a paper bag in the refrigerator. And I'm not too sure how many jars of refrigerator pickles or pesto I'm going to get, so I just have a few jars laid out here that I've cleaned. I have some white vinegar, I've got some apple cider vinegar, water, sugar, mustard seed, black peppercorns, and a little bit of salt. That is going to be for the pickles. And for the pesto, I have olive oil. I don't have pine nuts, but I do have almonds, so I'll toast those. I've got some garlic, I've got Parmesan, and some salt. So we'll get started. This is what I have to pickle here, and the leaves will be in the pesto. So I'm just going to cut the bulbs off, and I'll leave about that much, just long enough so that it doesn't come up above the ridge of the jar. There, I've got them separated here. I've got the bulbs for the refrigerator pickles and the leaves for the pesto. So I'll probably get about 2 jam jars of these. I made this recipe the other night, and I just did 1 jam jar and I ate the whole thing myself. I didn't even share. So I'm gonna need about half of these leaves for my pesto recipe, and the other half can go into the freezer and I can use them for another recipe. So I'm just going to give these another rinse off, and while I'm doing that, I'm just going to toast these almonds here. So I've got about a scant half cup of almonds, and like I'd mentioned earlier, I don't have pine nuts or walnuts, so I'm just going to use almonds. So I'm just going to turn my cast iron pan to about medium, and I'm just going to toast these until they're fragrant and a little bit toasted on the edges. It's going to be hard to tell since they're brown, but I'll be able to smell when they're ready. So I've got the almonds toasting for the pesto, and before I just rinse off those bulbs and pack these jars, I'm just going to put together the brine for the refrigerator pickles, and I'll just get that simmering. But first, before I do that, to each jar, I'm going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of black peppercorns, 1/4 teaspoon of mustard seed to each jar. And into my saucepan, I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of white vinegar, a 1/2 cup of apple cider vinegar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar, and 1 cup of water. And I'll just set this on the stove top just to get it simmering. Just going to give those almonds a stir. I'm just going to give these a quick rinse off again. I washed them yesterday, but let's do it again. I'm just going to pack these jars with the leek bulbs. I just like to have them going the same way. Then I can just pull the onion out of the jar when I'm going to eat it. Sometimes I find it easier to put the jar, tilt it this way, and then everything falls to the side and it's easy to pack your jars that way. So I just removed the brine from the stovetop, and then I'm just going to fill these jars. Just going to tamp these down a little bit. Maybe I can fit a little bit more brine in. I'm just going to put them in the refrigerator so I don't have to worry about the air bubbles, but I'm just going to add a little bit more brine to this one. Just going to wipe the rim off and put my lid on. So I'll leave those to sit out on the counter until they cool down, and then I'll store them in the refrigerator. And then you can eat them the next day, but they're best to be left for a couple of days to infuse the flavor into the onion. They are so good. So I have a little bit more brine left, and I actually might make a little bit more and stuff some jars with these leaves and pickle these leaves, because I also did that the other day and they're really good. I'm just going to take those leaves, I'm going to just fold them, just pack them into this jar. Just kind of push those down. It doesn't have to be perfect. They're going to be kind of wilted anyway. Let's see if I have enough brine. I need to make a little bit more. Yeah, a little bit more. That's okay, I can do 2 jars of these. There, I just got the brine done for both of those jars. And you can see it almost looks like wilted spinach or beet greens in there. But they won't be that easy to pick out. They might come out in a clump, but that's okay because I honestly could eat the whole jar. I'm just going to push these down below the brine level. They'll sink down eventually too. So that's all done, and I have about 10 minutes left to get this pesto done before I have to go get Isabel. I'm just going to do it in the food processor so that it's really quick. You can do it with a mortar and pestle though. So I've got a scant half cup of almonds that I've toasted. I have 5 cloves of garlic. I have about a half a cup of shredded Parmesan. About a teaspoon, that's a scant teaspoon of salt. I'm going to need about, the recipe called for 24 leaves. I doubled it, so about 48 leaves. I'm just going to eyeball it. So I'm just going to blend this up before I add some of the leaves, just so it's not a total paste before I add the olive oil. So I've got it to that consistency. Now I'm going to add the leek leaves, and then I'll drizzle in the olive oil. Looks like after the leaves were pulsed in there, and now I'm just going to slowly add the olive oil. And there's my pesto. Okay, so I gotta go get Isabel. I'll put that into jars when I get back. I'm back from picking Isabel up, and I just tasted it, and it just a slight bitterness. I think pesto sometimes does get like that. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of sugar. It might offset it. So maybe about a teaspoon, and we'll see how that goes. I just added a little bit more sugar, and I'm gonna add some lemon juice. Just gonna keep adding things just until I like it. Maybe I added a few too many leek leaves. That's good. The addition of the sugar and the lemon juice, it's excellent. So I'm just gonna fill these jars with pesto, and I just have the smaller jars, and that way we can put it on a little bit on pasta or on garlic toast, spread it on sandwiches. And I'm actually just going to put these in the freezer. I'm all finished, and I have 3 small jars of the leek leaf pesto, and then got my favorite, and these are refrigerated leek bulb pickles, and they are delicious. And I also did some pickled leek leaves, and I love these. These are fabulous. James doesn't really love them that much, but I do. They're crisp, but they kind of do have a texture of sauteed spinach. They don't taste like it, but I like that texture anyway. So I didn't want to waste those, and I love them and we'll have them with sandwiches. So thanks for joining me in the kitchen again today, and if you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing, hit that like button, and I'll see you again next time.